Fairly open this afternoon, gentlemen. I am going to talk about StorageCraft, what we are and who we are and whatever else like that. Just if I may, a quick show of hands. Who actually uses the StorageCraft products right now? So I got half the class. What class I shouldn't call you that. Half the people here I need to convince, don't I? Okay, that's cool. I've just been with StorageCraft for about the last 11 years. Still very passionate about it. Okay, so let's go from there. Folks, a little bit of history, and I think it's well worth hearing the history because people quite often want to know where we came from. They think we're only new kids on the block. We're not. Original product that we built, our developers built, was called a PowerQuest V2i Protector. A couple of years later, it was sold to a third-party company. I won't mention the company, okay? But they didn't buy the intellectual property. Biggest mistake ever. So the original developers added VSS capabilities to it, couldn't trade for 2 years as per the legal agreements. And in 2005, basically, they kicked off what's now called StorageCraft, based in Salt Lake City, in Draper in Utah, with Shadow Protect product. And that was the first product we ran with in Australia. Very successful. We pushed very hard into the SMB space because it was easy for us to get quick traction. It purely and simply, we'll talk about the product, but it was purely and simply revolutionary, and it still does very unique things today. 2005, I joined the company. We started selling Shadow Protect around the place. In 2015, this US-based company bought out the APAC business to form what's now called the Global StorageCraft business. And some interesting things really started to happen from that point. 2016, TA and Associates invested a couple of dollars in us and got an external person to become our CEO. So we became basically a publicly driven type company. We still are today. And then you can see the really quick stuff that's happened. 2016, we acquired Gilware, which is a product I'll talk about later on. 16-17, introduction of the partner program with real benefits to you as a partner. And then this really interesting one at the bottom line, I just threw just a couple of little tiny words in there. StorageCraft acquired a hardware company. Okay? It's called Exablocks. But I will talk about it, show you a few things about it today. Very, very powerful, very exciting, interesting piece of kit. And obviously, it's for a certain marketplace, not for all. But that's okay. Okay, so what do we do? Our core technology today is still based on the Shadow Protect, the SPX software. Backing up at the sector level are not files, and we utilise the speed of disk to disk, okay? This is, in my opinion, the core. This is the interesting part for you as a reseller and end user of our product. Why are we so different? You're going to see an awful lot of competitors say to you, but we do block level tracking. And they're going to try to convince you that blocks and clusters and sectors are the same damn thing. There's a slight problem. I'm from the old school, and I understand that a hard-coded piece of physical disk, whether it's virtual or physical, it's the same thing. A sector is the smallest size of data can be stored on a hard drive, and it is 512 bytes. We track at the sector level. When they talk about blocks, they're talking about 64K. They could be talking about 4K. But you understand this. We back up at the sector level and tracked changed sectors. So if a sector never ever changes, I'll never back it up again. Think about what we're achieving with this. The smallest, the shortest, the most efficient backup of a system today is just the changed sectors. Let's not sit there and try to work out what the hell's changed. We're doing fast tracking of that anyway. That is what Shadow Protect is. When I say Shadow Protect, it could be the older version or it could be the newer version of SPX. So if you like, I'll just call it SPX from today forward. To me, it's the same thing. They are the same product. enhanced slightly in the way we communicate with it, and that's about the size of it. A lot more features in the new one, but it's the same core product. Sectors are the smallest things. We track change sectors, folks. I'll go through this in a little bit more detail in a minute, but confusion everywhere you go, everywhere you talk to. Oh, we do block tracking. You know? I'm going to throw this little thought out there of the way this process works, and I can contact the customer this afternoon for if you want confirmation. His chains for his customer servers are 7 years old as of November last year. Full backup was done 7 years ago. And that's all we're tracking. Change sectors. It's a lot of power. You think about, and the one chain that's not as massive as you're already thinking, backing up every 30 minutes, it's nice and small. That particular technology that we have with Shadow Protect, obviously, has been incorporated into one of our other cloud-based products so that we actually do the same thing for one of our other products. That is, we call it FBR, File-Based Recovery. It's a Road Warrior's laptop backup system. Okay, we back up, and I'll talk more about it, but we use the same technology to do that, so we back up just files across the internet. Okay, but at the sector level. So, comfortable with that, folks? I am going to throw this out there, and I would very much like to invite every single one of you to come down to our booth downstairs and just chat with us, see what we can do. This partner program has taken us, you know, in my opinion, 10 years, 11 years to get this up and running, but it has worthwhile benefits, extremely worthwhile benefits. You know, you start looking at discounts for training, instructor-led, access to beta products, unlimited access to sales and technical e-learning resources, deal registrations. We make it easy for you to work with us and for us to work with you, and we help you. A lot of co-branding bits and pieces, single sign-ons, all sorts of stuff. But it is well and truly worth it. And for some of the people that get a few sales, you know, there's always little incentives of stuff we give you as you go through the thing. Okay? The partner levels, as you can see, are up the top there. Very few platinum ones in Australia. We got any... Sorry, gentlemen, I'm just going to speak with Carl down the back. Carl, any platinum in New Zealand? Yeah, perfect. Carl's an engineer from New Zealand. He's just sitting in here to keep an eye on me and make sure Jake does the right thing. It's cool. So, folks, what I'd like to do now is just briefly talk about, from an high-level overview, technical, architectural design of how the products work, if that's okay. So, our core products, and I've broken them into on-premise products, Shadow Protect and/or SBX, the same thing going forward today, Image Manager, Shadow Control, and we're going to show you Exablocks. The features that are in the first two are always changing. They're always getting new enhancements through. The bottom two, in my opinion, are definitely things to be proud of for what we can now achieve. You know, I have one customer that's dealing with 800 servers with Shadow Protect on them. They are still running Shadow Protect until next week. They are monitoring them all over Australia and New Zealand. Single pane of glass, tell me what's going on. That's the cool part. Okay, so we're going to do a bit of an overview discussion, how they work, key differentiators, best practice around shadow control, and then we'll show you an example of a live environment. So we're going to start down that path. I'm just going to keep it high level because if you understand the basics, then it becomes easy, okay? People say to me, what's your sweet spot? Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, interesting conversation, but when it comes down to it, an operating system determines that the block, as you would prefer to call it on an SSD, instead of going around this way, it goes this way, yes? But it's still broken down into 5, 12 byte sectors. The firmware still interprets it and says that is a sector. Because if you look at the current sectors that are running around 63 per track on a disk, we're using a 2-to-1 interleave today because of the speed of the disks. On a 15,000 RPM, it's 4-to-1 interleave. So contiguous sectors is 1, miss 3, number 5, miss whatever, you get the picture. On an SSD, it's exactly the same thing. So, and you think about this, we can take an image, as we call it, a backup of a physical disk that was, God forbid, IDE, if you ever still see one of them things kicking around, and I can put it onto an SSD today, and the OS, as long as the OS understands SSD, does not give a damn. Does that make sense? Because we back up at the sector level, the firmware in the SSD says I still have cylinders, heads, and sectors. But they're not this way, they're this way. Does that make sense? Everyone comfortable with that? Okay, so let's get started on this. From my perspective, folks, I'm going to stress this little point about set and forget. The whole concept of our product is, all right, and I'll use each and every one of you as a server, for example. I'm going to put 2 services down there in an I/O filter. That's the end of the discussion. The 2 services, Shadow Protect SVC or SVX service and vSnap VSS. That's all it is. The first service that we put down there is obviously one to talk to the server. So when I say to you, I connect to you, and I'm going to connect to Carl as one of my servers, and I say to Carl, I want you to back up to this location at these times using this encryption algorithm and using this compression algorithm. That service that is running on Carl then writes that into the appropriate place. And the difference between the 2 products is the old version wrote it into the registry, the new version writes it into a little SQL database, SQL-like database on the machine. Once that machine has the when, the where, the how, and the why, do I need to get involved? No. It is set and forget. This is the power of Shadow Protect. Set and forget, because if you do it correctly, all right, I can walk away, and then that's where we monitor. Proactively monitor, not reactive management. Does that make sense? Because you don't make money when you manage. You make money when you monitor. As an MSP, there's a fundamental difference. If I have to spend 4 hours per day keeping my backups running, that's 4 hours. Who do I charge? Can I send you the bill for that? The customer's going to look at you and go away. I've already paid you to look after my backups. That's 4 hours you've lost. So, we call it set and forget, okay? As it eliminates the need for a central management console. Fine. The second service is the crucial one. That first service says, hey, it's now time to do a backup. We know when, where, why, and how. The second service is the one that is responsible in a Windows environment for a fast VSS backup. Okay? In a Linux environment, it's still a fast backup, and it is still sector-based, but there is no VSS in Linux. Okay? But we still get the same thing, because Linux does things a little differently to Windows. It doesn't sort of partially write to disk. It's sort of up here or down there. There's nothing in between. Okay, here comes the important part. This installation requirements, the only other thing is this low-level kernel I/O filter driver. And I've had people say to me, why do I have to reboot when I put Shadow Protect on? This is why. This low-level kernel I/O filter driver sits there, has to be rebooted. It is part of the kernel before the operating system loads. It is the one that does the sector tracking. Okay? For the sake of the discussion, folks, I'm just going to simply use a hand view of this thing, because it's exactly the way it works. Imagine a U, if you will. The U is where this particular I/O filter driver sits in the I/O stack, and this is critical because it is joint. There is a join there. So if we write to here, NTFS is saying, I'm going to write to disk. We then see the write, we race down here and we wait for the write. If the write gets to this second part, which is where we've basically handed over to the mass storage device driver, we then record the sector change. If it doesn't make it here, we don't record it. We make sure there's no false positives. So the gentleman down here was talking about SSD hard drives, wasn't he? Throughout the day, SSD hard drives, we keep sending these trim commands, don't we? Yeah? Trim command basically says just make that 0 again. Yes? In our process, we see the trim command come through and we go, yeah, it's fine. The sector's changed, but it's not been changed that I need to back it up. It's a trim command. Does that make sense? That's why we have it in 2 places? All right. This kernel IO filter driver is critical in my opinion. It is the one that records all these changes into a kernel bitmap file called vdiff. So when we go to do a snapshot, folks, when we go to do the snapshot, using our second service, we say, I'm going to back up the C drive. We call VSS. VSS calls the appropriate writers to put everything in the right place. Yes? While all this stuff's been flashing to disk like Active Directory, Exchange, SQL, whatever, who cares, don't really jet, whatever. VDiff and the kernel IO filter have been recording every one of those changes in this little bitmap file. So when we say, let's do a snapshot, where do we go to get our snapshot from? To the kernel, to the little piece of bitmap file in memory. Here's my list of sectors I must back up. Fast, efficient, very quick. I'm bypassing a couple of little simple things here, like we do exclude the page file. Who wants to back that up? Okay. If you have the hibernation file on a server, we don't back that up either. Why, I don't know, but anyway, that file exists on a server. We also do ask the file allocation table one question at that point, and it's a logical, obvious question. I have my list of files of sectors to back up. I then ask the file allocation table, are you dirty? Which means, are you corrupt? And if it comes back with the answer yes, let me send you an email. You need to do a check disk on me because I ain't backing up. I'm not putting garbage in and garbage out. Does that make sense? So technically, when you take all this into account, all right, on a Windows box, on a Linux box, we don't use the VSS obviously, but very fast incremental backups of only changed sectors. Therefore, we can do backups every 15 minutes if that's what you want. Every 15 minutes. But the beauty of this is, if you set it up right, with the right destinations and stuff like this, nobody even knows you're doing it. People will not know you're doing this. Okay?
Are there any plans to reduce that 15 minutes? Because a lot of the incrementals can happen in under a minute flat, and we've actually had quite a few customers that have, the 15 minutes hasn't been short enough. Yeah. So
Okay.
in the case of an example, someone actually backed up an iPad with a whole heap of photos, and then somehow the iPad got wiped, and that all happened within a 15-minute period.
That is probably the first time I've ever heard somebody say, can we shorten the 15 minutes?
Time I come across it, but yeah.
You know, I've always seen people go, why would you want to do that many backups? You see, this is the interesting question, and this is quite often a typical problem that people have. For the sake of the exercise, gentlemen, if I could just round some numbers out, let us assume we've got a system that the C drive, it's a terminal server. But anyway, we got a terminal server, and from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, there could be 40 million changed sectors throughout the day, yes? So do you want to do one backup with 40 million sectors in it, all right, in a 12-hour period? If I come back to do it every 6 hours, it could be 20 million, all right? If I come back to every 3 hours, it could be 10 million. If I come back to every 30 minutes, what am I getting down to? Instead of this VSS process taking, a minute to achieve itself, it's doing it in, 15 seconds. That's the fundamental difference with it. And people go, oh, there's a bit of an impact, I better shove it out here. Well, let's look at the system and rearrange it and always come back this way. Okay? Shorter periods between them, but I've never had that request. Mark, I'm sorry. I don't know that there's even anybody's even thought about that. So yeah, I can't answer that one, mate.
No, because after it came up, they then asked for a continuous backup.
With SBX, it can't be done at this point. Interesting. Okay, I can't answer that one. But anyway, folks, do you understand why I spend so much time on this? When I'm actually doing a training session, we spend quite a bit more time at it because it is critical to understand this process. Once you understand this process and the way we do the tracking, the VSS tracking, this is why we call it set and forget. I'm not interested. You just do your job and tell me when you don't do your job. Then it becomes a lot more manageable from terms of manpower. Set, forget. Just do your job. Could you imagine one bloke looking after the backups for 800 servers if he had to manage every single one of them? No, wouldn't happen. With this, it's more than possible. It is achievable very, very simply with a little bit of design from you. Okay, I do need to have this discussion, folks, just so that people are aware, because Shadow Protect or StorageCraft in the past has been very, very accommodating is the right word. We need to make sure that we have a fixed image repository on site. Okay, where we're backing up to needs to be on site. Why? Because we're disk to disk. That's why. And if you logically think this through, there are people who say, well, let me back up to the cloud. Yeah, but hang on a minute. If I back up to the cloud then breaks for whatever reason, Telstra tear up my internet connection, where do you get your stuff from? If you need something, we always recommend a local fixed image repository for the reasons of fast file recovery, fast folder recovery, service recoverability, and also server. Set up correctly, we can do some fairly amazing bits and pieces with a bit of technology that's patented, and we just called it virtual boot. If you build it correctly. And people go, virtual boot, think about what we're trying to achieve with this thing. Virtual boot is the ability to take our backups, and for the sake of the exercise, right-click virtual boot. Bring it up in an environment. The original one was Oracle VirtualBox. We can now do Hyper-V. We can now do ESX. Just let me boot it by a right mouse click into a virtual environment. For what purpose? And this is the question. Okay? This is why we talk about these fixed image repositories. Because I want to sandpit it. I want to put a bit of software on this thing to see what would happen to an actual production server if I throw this software on. Does it blue screen it? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to use it. But why would I put it on the production server, not a virtual booted one of the backup images? The second reason I use it for is let's test the images. Isn't it so nice to finally walk into a place and a customer says to you, righto, today's DR day, we're invoking DR. I want you to boot that server, and that server, and tell me it works. And you go, yeah, sure, no worries. Log in, you're comfortable. You VLAN it out, and that's part of it. VLAN it out so it's not on the production system. But you log them in, they go, oh, that's cool. Tick, 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 tick. Never argue with the bill then, do they? Because it's part of a documented DR plan. It's nice and simple. A whole bunch of reasons about this, but we need to talk about the fixed image repositories in a lot more detail. In smaller environments, I've seen people use these USB hard drives. Scares the hell out of me. Because as you and I all well know, they've got a warranty of 3. 3 seconds, 3 feet, drop it 3 times, it's toast. Yeah. They have their place, but not here. NAS boxes, we see an awful lot of people use NAS boxes. Properly designed, you will achieve 70 to 80% of the outcome the customer's looking for without a problem. Okay? Poorly designed, yeah, first time they get crypto-locker, they're going to hate you. But we can help with that. There's some documents we've written about how you can help overcome some of these potential problems. SANs, we can absolutely use a SAN. Don't care whether they're fibre channel, iSCSI. We need SATA hard drives at a minimum. We don't need SAS. We sure as hell don't need SSD, okay? Just good quality SATA hard drives. And we're going to talk about our own appliance very shortly, but it comes under the category of between those last two. It's a bit different. So yes, please folks, you know, one of the things that I, as part of what I do and spend a lot of my time doing, is I talk to people about protecting the backups. If you don't protect them, you've got nothing. This customer in Brisbane that's got 147 servers backing up to this one fixed image repository, if it wasn't designed properly and protected properly and looked after, basically it was all done when we built the damn thing, we just monitor from that point forward, they're in deep trouble, okay? So yeah, we need to think about this, folks, and more than happy to show you that whole environment, work with you, sanity check on it, design it, and deal with it. Just thought I'd quickly show you here. This is my little test development play training laptop network in Brisbane. I've actually team viewed into it. And if you have a look up the top there, I've got, it's just an RDP session manager. The top server there is AO1, AD01, that's an Active Directory domain controller. BNE VSO2 is the one we're currently on, which is my Hyper-V and image manager server, but I'll talk about that. There's a 2003 server that I've got just for a specific reason with our monitoring software, and this is a 2012 R2 DC. Okay, pick any one of them you like. I will not show you the AD one for a specific reason, but it's running an old version of Shadow Protect, folks. This is standard SPX, and this is how we log into it. Eventually it shows us what I'm doing. You can see what it is. I'm not really interested, folks, but if you have a look at this, what I have done is here, I have created a share or a destination for Shadow Protect, in this case SPX, to back up to. It is sitting on a exablocks, but I'll show you that in a minute. And then if you have a look at any one of these particular jobs, okay, you can hit the pencil mark on here, we can have a quick look at it. Okay, I'm backing up the C drive. I'm backing up Sunday through to Saturday from 4 in the morning till basically 8 at night, every 30 minutes. And all I've got is use write caching, and that's basically it. I do nothing. Actually, I should open that back up so you can have a see. No, this one's probably not the right one. Let me go back to this one. This is my file server. It also does a few other things. It's got Windows Server Update services on it and a few other bits and pieces. And it's, you know, just so you can actually see here, I have no idea what this thing's been doing today. The first backup this morning was 134 meg, 2.4 meg, 3.1 meg, 2.5. Yeah, right, fine, we get the picture. Set and forget, folks. It's actually in a serviced office in Brisbane, these servers. And I just asked the young lady in the serviced office if she wouldn't mind this week because I want to show people some stuff. She just walks up of a morning and goes, start, start, start. She doesn't know what she's starting. She just knows press that, that, and that. And it's there, okay? So that's the SPX part of it. Okay, we'll show you some of the other bits and pieces associated with that. This is the one that I think needs more time. This is the one, in my opinion, that is crucial. This is the one that when I say, and I'm guaranteed these four gentlemen sitting over here, that customer I said that's got a chain that's 7 years old, you're going, is this bloke frigging mad or what? There? That's why I'm not mad. This particular software, and people, and we'll get to the discussions, but people don't quite understand. Image Manager is the piece of software that we give to you. That's main functions are verify, re-verify, and I think that's super critical, consolidate and retain. That's its core functions. Okay? So my fixed image repository, I've got my server that is backing up. All right? It backs up to here. Shadow Protect or SPX has created a secured, encrypted, whatever backup and said, that file's good because I verified it. And Image Manager goes, thanks for that. It's not that I don't trust you, I'm going to re-verify the file. And you need to understand why we do this re-verification straight away. We do not trust the disk subsystem we're setting the backups on. Does that make sense? Critical. But here's the really critical one, and I'll show you this so you get your heads around this. Re-verify. We have a default setting that every 7 days we will re-verify a shortest path chain. So at processing time, which I'll show you the ins and outs of it, we'll actually perform it for you. At processing time, what we actually do is throw away all the errors. We look at what's in the database and what's on disk. We do a comparison. We then do a quick mount to make sure we have a valid shortest path chain. And every 7 days for every volume, it will say to the secondary queue, please verify these files in that chain. So you know the guy I was talking about with 7 years, his base image is 7 years old? Every 7 days, that chain, the shortest path of that chain, has been re-verified, both on site and in the data center. That is the critical part. This is why I can sit at night and go, it's fine, don't worry about it. Get your head around how this thing works, understand how it works, the technology, the underlying technology. This makes the job. It seriously does. Then obviously at processing time we do consolidation. So consolidation is where we take the 30-minute incrementals and we create a collapse daily. Just after midnight on Saturday, which is on Sunday morning, we take the collapsed dailies and we create a collapse weekly. And then at the end of the month, the first 2 minutes or 5 minutes into the first day of the next month, we create a collapse monthly. And then appropriate timings, we can set it up, like this guy in Melbourne. He's got his set up to keep consolidated monthlies forever. Okay? But one of the other servers where the customer doesn't want end of month for the last 7 years, he's ticked another box and said, just give me the last 6 months. So we then produce what's called a consolidated rolling monthly. And it's all verified and played with, but each one of these consolidation prunes out unnecessary sectors to shrink down the size of the storage required. That's its core. It is a very, very robust piece of software. You know, set it up correctly and it works fine. But included features with this thing, and I've got here replication, local drive replication for sure. Local drive replication, you laugh at some of the stories, but you know, local drive replication in smaller environments can be replicated from the fixed image repository to a USB hard drive for somebody to take home. Religiously gets done for the first 4 days. And for the next 4 years, it's just the same hard drive, but it died 2 years ago and nobody ever checked it. And anyway, we can also replicate to UNC path statements. So I have a few schools that we use that process with, where they have a particular NAS box set up as a nice SCSI target in a completely different building. So they replicate all their backups via a UNC path to this particular thing. So if the server room goes down, they've at least got backups somewhere. Across a network and across a WAN link and whatever else, I'm quite partial to the intelligent FTP. Bit of an oxymoron in it. How can FTP be intelligent? It is. The FTP library we're using is quite smart in so much that it can detect where we left off to the offset, which is basically the sector, okay, and resume 2 days later. It's pretty powerful. And then cloud, of course, replicating to our cloud is nothing more than intelligent FTP with security over the top of it, okay? You choose the level of security. I would always go SSH, okay? but yes. We then got these other two little features, and I'll talk about the second one first. Image Manager has the ability to do what's called an advanced verification. So you know that virtual boot I was talking about? Image Manager will do that for you and send you the picture. Okay? It's a pretty nice little piece of software. It'll just virtual boot it. Okay? Wait for 5 minutes, capture the screenshot, and then email that. But it leaves a copy of that picture, the PNG file, it leaves a copy in the image repository in case you never got the email. It just leaves a copy of it sitting there. So I can show you a few of them. The other one here that I find very, very, very useful and interesting is Head Start Restore. You would start now. Anyway. Head Start Restore, folks, is the ability for me to take, and I think I need to perhaps sidetrack just for 2 seconds. Because we do sector-based backups, we've always had the ability to restore that backup to anything. Okay? You can give me a backup of a machine in the cloud, I can put it on an IBM. You give me an old Dell, I can stick it on a HP. You know, you give me a HP and I'll stick it on whatever else you want. That has always been the power of our software because it's sector-based. Okay, we are capturing everything, not just bits and pieces, the entire thing. As part of that process, we then can create restores to whatever you want us to do. So Head Start Restore has a definite use for a definite environment. Migrations, I love Head Start Restore. You cannot beat Head Start Restore. I will put our Head Start Restore up against anybody and I will beat them hands down. How do I know this? Because I've done it. Head Start Restore is the ability to pre-create the virtual disks in Hyper-V or ESX so that at some point in time I can go finalise and stand. That's what it's all about. In Hyper-V we now have the ability to take GPT UEFI 2012 R2 secure boot servers, and if I want to, migrate it over here, I can do that. I can shift them around, do what I want, because of the power of the sector-based backups. Okay, some people are using this for near-line disaster recovery for their own companies. There's one company based here on the Gold Coast where we've set this up. Their own DR centre is sitting up towards Brisbane. They're using Head Start Restore to create or pre-create the virtual disks for their machines. And they have a little plan, which we're still working on and fine-tuning and improving and training. But basically they have a plan to bring up all their servers in about 6 hours. One bloke, by himself, over there. Okay? Why 6 hours? Because he's still getting used to the process. And the SLA they have with the business, their internal IT, their own SLA says we've got 8 hours to do this. So he's now got it down to 6. I personally have stood 127 servers from one data centre in another data centre, complete with all the bits and pieces. Took me 4 hours and 12 minutes. Okay? It is a very, very effective and efficient process. We got a company that I do a lot of work with, collaboration work with. They use that process to the nth degree. Whenever they take a customer on-prem and put them in their cloud, that's what he uses. It is so efficient. Okay? So Head Start Restore, and notice I say included features, very, very powerful. We're improving it all the time. The only fundamental difference between Shadow Protect and SPX, Shadow Protect used to use the registry and DCOM for communications. SPX, the same core function service is still there, but SPX uses the REST protocol and doesn't use the registry for restoring information. So you can actually have, and I can show you a machine where my current image manager is managing one of my AD servers that's a 2008 R2 box. The old images are sitting there and I can show you those, but they're couple of years old, but the new ones I just started last week, not that old. But Image Manager does not care whether it was Shadow Protect 2.4 or SPX 6.5, whatever. Okay? Because it is the same file. The only thing that's different is the headers. There's slightly more information in the header. So when SPX opens up the header of a Shadow Protect 3 or 4 or 5, it goes, oh, okay, fine, you're a Shadow Protect. And it just deals with it. So our current recovery environment will restore a Shadow Protect 2.4 backup. That is the way we will always keep it. It has to be backwards compatible, in my opinion. So what I'm going to do here, folks, is just quickly show you some of these bits and pieces, if you don't mind. To do that, no, I don't want that. I just purely want this. This is my Image Manager machine. This is my Image Manager instance. I have it open. If I go and expand it all out, and then we can have a look. These particular folders here are replicas of this top system, except for this one laptop here. Okay, so this is my laptop sitting in Brisbane, the one that I'm actually team view it into. Okay, if you have a quiet little look here, it says this particular folder is just on a terabyte in size. So the backups for my laptop in Brisbane are a terabyte in size. Okay? So basically what happens here, folks, at processing time, and we'll just quickly show you this because it is, in my opinion, important. The normal default time for processing should always be, 5 minutes past midnight. Why is mine set at 9 o'clock in the morning? Because I'm a serviced office, no air conditioning. The poor thing would just die overnight. So I've got it set at 9 o'clock in the morning. And that's because of an environment I have to work under. But you got things like performance, about replication, global retentions, which we can spend a lot of time discussing, locations, adjust destinations, and about tells me what version I'm running. Okay? If we have a look at this particular folder first, it's just a folder that I'm managing. Verification, you'll see here, immediately verify, periodically re-verify existing every 7 days. This one has also got the ability, I've turned it on, okay? It is a Windows 10 box, GPT UEFI. And I've got that tick box about where my cursor's sitting at the moment, my mouse. Boot newly consolidated daily image files. It would have done that this morning, and we'll see. And then retention, and I've decided to use the default retention that I've got at the upper level. If you have a quick look at some of my other ones, for example, a domain controller. Where's the domain controller gone? Here. The default retention I've got for a domain controller is 1111. People go, hang on a minute, how can I have one collapse daily and then delete it? You can't. It's going to keep the 7 collapse dailies to create the collapse weekly, and then when that collapsed weekly is a day old, it will then say, right, now I can get rid of these. Because it's a domain controller and that's all it's doing, why do I want to keep a long retention on that thing? I mean, I've got a 60-day tombstone anyway. So keep it short, keep it sweet, just do your job and leave me alone. Does that make sense? On a file server, I'm going to go ridiculous. On an Exchange server, I'm going to bring it down here, a SQL box somewhere in the middle. But understand what retentions are for and what you can utilise them for. Okay, so if we take this one here, and I think the interesting thing for me at this point is we'll take the Alien laptop, and it's got 666 images here. I want to show you exactly what happens at processing time. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to force it as if it was midnight. Okay, or in my case 9 o'clock in the morning, but that's that particular folder. And I'm going to go start, I'm going to go yes. 0 images, what the? 0 images. What it's doing, folks, is the crucial daily processing. It says, I don't know what's on disk, I don't know what's in the database, let me now look. It has a look, compares to the database. It then also says, right, now, according to the database, today is the day I have to do a shortest path chain verification again. It's actually testing I have a valid chain. Automatically testing I have a valid chain. And as soon as I have a valid chain, it says, fine, I'll keep moving on. And if it was the appropriate time, I'll expand it out, I don't know whether it is or it isn't, but if it was the appropriate time, just verified something underneath the hood then, which was too quick for me to catch. But it does its re-verification. This is the thing that I think I hang my hat on most, to say, this is the power. This is how it works. This is why it works. And I get image managers to do a lot of other things. So let's go down and have a look at that particular machine. That is on my H drive. Over here. That's the 24th of the 1st. That's interesting. 8th of the 2nd. Yeah, hopefully there's a later one than that. 9th. 15th. That's the day, isn't it? Yes, it is. I have no idea what's in this. There you go. That was when it was trying to virtual boot this thing for that advanced verification test. And you can see there that it needed a little more than the existing 5 minutes, because it says it's a Windows 10 box and says getting devices ready. Okay? I'm still comfortable with that. It's not perfect, but I'm comfortable. Let's go back and see if we can find one that's actually waited the appropriate time. Whoops, not that, Jack. That one's not either. There you go, there's one. That's my log on screen, or my locked screen. An old particular train I took a bit of fancy 2 years ago. But anyway, that's fine. Folks, sorry, that's Image Manager. In my honest opinion, it is crucial. And here's the interesting thing, okay? Here's my Image Manager server, looking after the 100 servers in this site. Replicate to where I want. Yes? Don't manage any of it, monitor that. So. So take the worst case scenario, sir. So what is the worst case scenario? AD I don't really care about, because I'm going to cover that anyway. It's probably more likely to be a file server. And what you have to think about, and this is the hard part for a lot of people, if I have a look at my file server, so we'll come back to this one here. I've gone for 15, 15, 45, and 12, okay? Now this is a file server. Why do I do that? Because you're up against malicious little shits. Is that the right word to use? There are people out there who will delete shit hell, west and crooked because, one, I don't like you, two, you just fired me and you're an idiot and you didn't walk me out the door. You have to protect yourself. And if you protect your fixed image repository very well, this is the way of protecting it. So you have a look at those intradailies, and I'll show you what the intradailies are first. So if I come down to here, we'll come into here, we'll go into backups, and we'll pick this. No, not that server, that's dead, this one. You know what, the easiest way is to show you my actual laptop, because I can quite easily just screw around with some numbers on this thing. I'm going to clean up a bunch of files, folks. I will explain what those files are in a minute, but they are irrelevant to the performance of Image Manager, right? So here, you can see I've got a base file. You see I've got a consolidated rolling monthly file, a collapsed monthly file, a collapsed weekly file, a collapsed daily file, and a bunch of incrementals, okay? So these incrementals are every 30 minutes, and that's 525 meg of backups for the one day. Agreed? Okay. Part of the consolidation process is it then converts that to a collapsed daily. So the 525 went down to 346 meg, okay? So if we come back over here, I'm keeping those 30-minute incrementals for 15 days. So for the sake of the exercise, let's just give it 10, yeah? The number you see here is only concerned about the last one because it treats the 10 of them as a set, okay? So it looks at this last one, in this case, on a file server, it says, are you 15 days old? He goes, no. Okay. Keeps asking the same question every day until at one point it gets, are you 15 days old? Yes, I was that 4 hours ago. Fine, it deletes the set. What this gives you is the recoverability you're looking for at the 30-minute incrementals. That's what I prefer to use. It gives me the recoverability for those malicious people and other things down to that. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's the 30-minute incrementals at the top. The next one is the collapsed dailies. The collapsed dailies, as you know, are a summary or a summation or a consolidation of the 30-minute incrementals with pruned stuff taken out, right? So here we're saying keep the consolidated dailies, and on a server environment you've got 7, yes? Here we've got the 7 of them, and we're saying the 7th one, not the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th, or 6th, but the 7th one, you also have to be 15 days old. So I'm keeping that for that period of time. The next one, in my opinion, is probably the most crucial one, the collapsed weeklies. Normally there's 4 collapsed weeklies. You will get the odd time when there will be 5 and occasionally an oddball 3, but average is 4, okay? The 4 of them are then produce what's called a collapsed monthly. At that point in time, you want to keep those collapsed weeklies for 45 days. So you think about it, the 4 files are how long? A month and a half, 6 weeks out. So you're actually keeping those files for that long. So I've got these recovery points. For Active Directory, I don't need it. For Exchange, I don't need it. Okay, SQL, getting close to it, I'd probably need it, but it depends on how you deal with it. This is the design decisions you make for your customer based on open, frank communication, because I know a customer that says, I want to keep everything forever and a day. They always do, don't they? Including the backups. That's all right. I'm going to go out and buy you a fixed image repository that's going to include 400 petabytes, and here's your bill. What do you reckon he's going to do? Heart attack. It has to be a logical compromise for 2 reasons. Achieve 90% of what he wants at a cost that he can afford. Does that make sense? But that's what that's all about. I've got a lot of servers, especially for this other client that I talk about quite often. A lot of those servers, we keep the 30-minute incremental backups for no more than 2 days. Just get rid of them. We're not interested in them because we're not interested in going back after 2 days. The data, 2-day-old data, just throw out the product. That's how bad it is. 30 minutes, in any one 30-minute cycle, if one of these machines dies, they basically throw 50,000 litres of beer down the drain. Does that make sense? So keeping backups of servers that were, 2 days old, it's just not relevant. It's horses for courses. Their file server, that bottom one there is left at 24. The next one up is set at 75.
With this, Jack, so this image manager just monitors the network location where you've got it. So
It monitors the fixed image repository, yes.
So you wouldn't set a retention period in the backup jobs then? You would use this to do it?
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Perhaps I should go back. Thank you, Mark, for that. Some people still insist on creating weekly schedules. I'm going, why? What the hell are you trying to do? There's very few cases today why you would do this. I've also got other people going, well, I want to create a monthly schedule. What the hell for? Back up just the change sectors for the duration of the damn server, continuous incrementals. That is the way we do it. That is the preferred way.
I think from our point of view, when we've done that with the weekly or monthly basis,
this is the standard argument that I always get, okay? Oh, but that base image, because everything relies on that base image, don't get me wrong. That base image, if some turkey deletes a file or one of the files in the chain gets damaged because of disk failure, I'm screwed. Yeah, but you haven't really designed your solution very well if all you've got is one copy. Does that make sense? Replicate me a copy off site so that I can bring it back if I need to. But the whole concept behind this thing, in my honest opinion, is one chain, continuous incremental chain for a period, is far less disk usage than weekly schedules or let me do a monthly schedule, because 2 backups of my laptop is going to take 3 terabytes for me on my laptop. I don't have 3 terabyte storage on my laptop.
And so by doing the consolidated daily and weekly images, that speeds up the restore then, does it?
Oh, absolutely. Shortest path chain. The shortest path chain I can show you on the laptop better than I can on the server, but shortest path chain is what files are in the chain for me to have a mount point, okay?
Sorry, if I understood right, you only do one pull and
One pull backup and that's it, continuous incremental.
See here, this is a nice clean chain, yes? So if you look at this and I click on this file, the chain, as you would logically expect it, will go from there to there to there to there to there and back up to here, right? But I might say, well, you know what, I just want this one. And this is using Shadow Protect, and I still have a Shadow Protect kicking around for this reason, because I'm going to go mount the old mount tool. And basically, these are, excuse me. I'll just walk away for a second. Basically, this thing will show you the shortest path chain there. Okay? So there might be, there could be, 1,000 files in the whole system, but they're the only ones that I need for the shortest path chain. See how it bypasses the other ones? And it keeps the disk usage to a manageable, what I call manageable level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so the automatic re-verify, the self-repair stuff, that only comes from Image Manager then, does it?
Self-repair, no. Self-repair will come from SPX. Yeah, do you want me to show you?
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure. Well, it wasn't SPX, but it's the ultimate.
Yeah, Shadow Protect will do self-repair, but it won't do it automatically. So here's we'll do it. See here, folks, we got MD5s, and if you look down here, we've also got bitmap files. MD5s are purely and simply for verification, but they are not critical. They are not critical for the backups. Just give me 2 secs here, folks. I'm going to go across to the bitmap files. Image Manager will recreate what it needs when it needs them. The MD5s are not crucial for backup for verification processes, because Image Manager's smart enough to be able to deal with them being there or not being there. So I'm just going to go and shift all of them to there. I will put them back just to make life easy. But I want to just show you this. That's an interesting little kettle of fish. Wouldn't you like that, eh? Okay, that's cool. What I'm going to do here, folks, is just make this easiest way. I'm going to break a chain, if that's all right. Comfortable for that? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take and that's the last C drive backup. That's the one before it. So I'm going to take that particular backup and I'm just going to delete it, if that's okay. Everyone happy with that? Too bad, it's gone. Now I'm going to open up here, and I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to go start processing, because this is what would normally happen. Okay? So I'll just leave that alone. This should obviously come up with a failure. Well, we certainly hope it will, because it says my chain is broken. It tests the shortest path chain and it says it's screwed. So hopefully I can catch it before SPX does its automated backup. SPX is nicer in this field because SPX will look at the chain and say, do I have a valid? Every 10 minutes it checks the chain. It just goes, do I? Yep, perfect. Do I? Whoops, hang on, there's a break here. And it'll do what's called an automatic self-healing incremental. Okay? What is going on here? I did do it in VS2, didn't I? Yes, I did. So we went from 95 is not there. So that should have failed. Why did that not fail? It's checking out some of the other files for some silly reason. Okay, that's all right. We'll do this. There's two ways of doing this. It's smart enough to pick it up. If I open up SPX, I think I know what's going on here. That's okay. That's validation for something else for later. That's cool. If I go here and I just go and trigger that backup, I'm just going to start an incremental backup. We will see what it comes up with. Okay? I think I know what's going on here. It's not giving me the exact results I wanted because I'm using a different image repository, but that's okay. That'll explain later. Okay, folks, I need to move on. What I expect to see here is a brown line that says differential. It did an automatic self-repair because SPX is smart enough to automatically do it. With Shadow Protect, we had to help it. SPX is really smart in that light, and so I like what SPX can do for me. Okay? Okay, that's cool. That's even better tools. Perfect. Okay. Anyway, folks, really, really important in my opinion. This is crucial. But what is even more important, this is this customer stuff in Brisbane, folks. Just a very quick look here. This is the image manager server. This is a SAN. It is a SATA SAN, 30 terabytes in there. We got 11 terabytes free. The two folders you can see over there are remote SP images and SP images. Total of some 11.5 terabytes, all managed by the one image manager server. And just so that you're aware, the chain for this particular one server is the base image was the 14th of the 2nd, 2015. No base image since then. Okay? And that's the image manager server for that. You'll notice this down here. One of the subfolders has been in activity, or not active for the last 2 days. When I took that picture, it was a Monday morning, and some of the servers hadn't backed up over the weekend because they don't back them up on the weekends. They don't use them. But you can see what's happening. You know what? What we're going to briefly talk about here is something that I'm very proud of what StorageCraft has achieved with this. It's still got some way to go, but it's very powerful in what it can do. Shadow Control, our free deployment and monitoring tool. All over the world, we've got one customer in Sydney who's monitoring somewhere in the vicinity of about 80 different sites. On average, 4 servers per site with this piece of software. Talk about it, who cares? Let's have a look. This is my shadow control sitting on my little test network in Brisbane. 5 machines. And you know what I like about it? When you get used to seeing this thing, it's a Ubuntu appliance, folks. That's all it is. Ubuntu appliance. And when you start looking at it, you go, oh, I want to clear all this. It's not necessary to clear that because you look across the top. Okay, if you come down and have a look at the stand, we can show you another one that's utilised in the Sydney office for testing purposes for support people and whatever else and testing. But look across the top and look at it from the perspective. It says Shadow Protect status. Whether it's Shadow Protect or SPX, I don't care. It's green. Look at the middle one, Image Manager status. I've got Image Manager, an old version sitting on one of my domain controllers just because I want to see what it reports. And there it is. 3 of them, they're all green. I can see I've had some issues. The service was unresponsive this morning, just after lunch when I was doing a few different things, fixing a couple of bits and pieces, just managing some stuff. But shadow control status, it says I got 5 of them, they're all reporting in. This is what I call proactive monitoring. That's it. If it's green, it's green. If it goes orange, okay, I've got a bit of a problem, as you can see here. Okay, inactivity warnings. Okay, I got replication fails, that went red. Unresponsive, orange. If it goes grey, it means I can't talk to it for some reason. But at a simple overview from an enterprise, medium-sized business, okay, we're talking, sites with 100 servers in them, those sorts of things. Look at it. Isn't it so easy? You got a backup problem? It'll tell you straight away, immediately. It will tell you. Within 7 to 10 minutes, I should say. But if you have a look at all of these sorts of things, you can go and have a look at reports and organisations and status rules. It's multi-tenanted. I can have a person that logs in and I create, some artificial sort of sites. So my laptop sits in Fred Engineering. Okay, and I've got the other one which is home.local. Okay, I can create it so that a user can log in and just see home and nothing else and not change anything. I could have a bunch of engineers looking after this one. They log in, that's all they see, but they can see and do what they need if I give them the appropriate rights. For example, if I go to the endpoints, okay, and I pick the domain controller, the 2012 R2 domain controller. Simple things like view the job details, pause the job, run the job, stop the job. And here's a nice one, lock the job. What does that do? This is part of the power of this thing. It says, Mr. Customer, you can't even look at it. Don't even bother. We will control the backups because that's what you're paying us for. Because if you can stop people playing, the amount of massaging you got to do to keep stuff going reduces. And just lock them, okay? Very powerful tool, but the interesting thing here for me, and one of the most great parts of this thing, is the push install. So basically I can come in here and we can go manage the endpoints and we can go, right, what do I want to do? How about we upgrade to SPX? It'll automatically tell me there's only 1 machine, okay? Well, there's actually 2. I have my laptop is running Shadow Protect 527 and one of my domain controllers is running 527 as well, so I can upgrade both of them to SPX just here, now, do it to a whole group of them, do whatever I want, deal with it. I can go and install Image Manager, Shadow Control, whatever. Yeah, look, folks, really seriously, we've probably got 5 minutes left, but anyway, shadow control, in my opinion, folks, is very well worth a look at because it takes the pressure off the system and allows you to monitor. So, I need to step up a bit here. Folks, I'm going to give you a quick overview of ExaBlocks. ExaBlocks is a scale-out storage device. StorageCraft bought the company. And very quickly here, does not use arrays. Most of us struggle with hang on a minute, what do you mean there's no array? There is no array. So you throw a disc in, you pull a disc out, the thing will not stop. You put a disc in, it just adds it to it. Uses what's called, they call it Smash FS, okay? It is a very clever system. It's got dedupe, it's got a whole bunch of bits and pieces. I'm going to quickly show you mine. Hopefully I'm still logged into it. I probably aren't by now. Yes, I'm logged out. Just give me 2 seconds, folks, and we'll log back in. We'll just go straight to the screen that I think's the nicest screen. Look, this thing's got access-based enumeration, Active Directory, integration. It's got a whole bunch of bits and pieces like that. It's all really nice. But here you go. I've been using this thing for 2 weeks. That's all I've had it for. Well, I've had it longer than that, but I haven't been able to use it until 2 weeks. Data received is 2.8 terabytes. Data written is 2 terabytes. Okay? Compression savings are 485. Now, I've tried a bunch of different ways of compressing it inside of our product and then not compressing it and encrypting it, not encrypting it, getting a whole bunch of tests. Yeah, have a look. Why have I written 2 terabytes to this thing and I'm using 3.2 terabytes of disk space? It's because of the way Smash FS works. You can't delete things, it won't let you. Only certain people can delete certain things. And I have to be, and that's why I was having trouble deleting that file a while ago, because I remembered what I'd turned on this damn thing. But that's okay. Look at it from this perspective, folks. I reckon this thing has got some really, really nice benefits. So if I go back to this level here, okay, and I'm just going to go properties. You know for a fact that I've written 2 terabytes to it, and it's 3.2 terabytes, I think, was on the screen. Is that correct? Yeah. What are we up to so far? Only 2. That's interesting. I'll walk away and leave it alone for 5 minutes. It's gone 3. If we want to wait, it'll go to about 90 terabytes. How does that work? Let's go back to this screenshot for a very split second, folks. I want to go to the shares. And I want to go to this one here, which is the backup share that I'm using. Lifetime is 280 gig I've supposedly written to this thing. It is an SMB share, is access-based enumeration. It is restricted to some Active Directory users, specific ones. Snapshots are enabled. I'm keeping them for a week. Snapshots on this thing. That's what's using, theoretically, all the space, but they're immutable. So Mr. Good Old Crypto Locker can go jump. He can't touch them. Just roll back. That's the beauty of the system. He can encrypt it for, like Tuesday, and you turn up Thursday. Don't care, roll back. Compression's enabled, and I've got variable length dedupe turned on. So folks, if I go back up here, okay, 3.2 terabytes. Go back over here, it's now hitting 20.9 yeah, but trust me, it'll go to over 80 before we're done. Folks, and I do apologise, I am running out of time here, but the Exablock stuff, let me be honest, it is not for an SMB customer. Medium enterprise customers will benefit dramatically from this, particularly in the 2 environments of a backup storage and primary data storage. Because I can have one in, say, Sydney and one in Melbourne, set up the replication between the 2, and it becomes a super efficient, far better DFS solution than Windows can throw at it because of the way it works. It is unbelievable the way it does it. please come and do it. It's fairly new to us. We only bought the company in January. Carl's had the pleasure actually of going over and speaking to the developers and all the product managers and whatever. I haven't had that luxury yet, but come down to the stand please and talk to us about all of this. Okay, two other things I would like to talk about, three actually. I want to talk about Cloud DR, folks. I also want to talk about Cloud Backup FBR and leave it at that. So I just want to show you this if I can, because, whoops, wrong one, Jack. This one. And please come and visit us to get more about this. I'm logging in here as one of you people would, as an MSP, all right? Doesn't like me. Oh, God. Somebody's reset me. No, that's okay. Interesting. One last go. Okay, I'll sort it out later. Folks, what I basically wanted to show you here was three things. Our cloud backups. So we actually have built a purpose-built DR service, DR center just for you. Please come and talk to us about it, but the concept of it is the Shadow Protect backups that you've already got, replicate them to our cloud, as long as they are encrypted and compressed, replicate them to our cloud, and we basically give you the ability to stand those servers in our cloud. Okay? You do it, not us. We give you the ability to do it. It's a value add to your services. That's what it is. Interesting thing is it would take probably 5 to 10 minutes to set it up originally for a fairly simple environment of 10, 20 servers. Would take you 10 minutes to set it up, and then the pre-test to make sure you've got it all configured correctly would probably take, for 10 servers, would probably take a good hour. And then when the customer wants it, you just press a button and it just does it.
How does that work if you shoot a copy up online and in terms of like your bare metal recovery type stuff, so server has failed?
So you're asking to get it back?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a case recently where the server failed. They were monitoring their own backup, so they hadn't monitored their Shadow Protect backup, so they're all good on top. And then they went to a failover backup, which was same as your one. How you get that back to the bare metal?
Easy.
Can you use the recovery environment?
Absolutely, that's what it's for. But the whole cloud idea is when you're doing testing, see, we quote you a price per month. When you actually stand them in the cloud, we don't charge any extra, okay? Because that's part and parcel of the upfront price, including if you say, well, that machine's not big enough, I need more CPUs and memory, and there's a couple of other settings we can apply, but you can't change that. You've got to ask us to do that. Once it's set, you stand it. There's a little square you just tick the box on, and once you tick that box, it says, this is a real failover, and it starts snapshotting. So when you decide, because we give you 30 days per calendar year to stand it in our cloud, we don't charge any extra. That's part of the price. You go over by a few days or 7 days, they're probably going to ring you and say, hey, what are you doing? We had one guy go over by nearly 3 weeks. They didn't charge him. They had the right to charge him, but they didn't. Okay, if somebody's blatant about it, they'll just hit him with everything they can find. What he did was when he was prepared and got ready for it, and he had the new tin that he wanted to go back to, he asked for what's called a BMR drive. We send the backups back to you on this USB device. You start the restore as normal, and because it reads an XML file, it goes, okay. At the appropriate point, it says, I will now get it from, do you want the last backups from the cloud? And you go, yes, and you get the current stuff. It takes a snapshot, shuts it down, and sends it to you. Okay? So you just want to make sure you're not on a ADSL connection when you're doing that bit. Don't like that. Okay? But that's what that's all about. This one up here, folks, very, very, I don't know why I can't get in my account. Somebody's, or maybe it's a firewall here or something, I don't know. Office 365, we're bringing in the Google G Suite as of 2 weeks' time, I believe it should be released. But full Office 365, so the SharePoint, corporate OneDrives, got a nice demo downstairs. Young Carl's got a nice demo of all that downstairs. It is purely an MSP product. And the most simple way for me to explain this, here's your Office 365 data, right? Here's our processing, deployment, here's a bucket. We back this stuff up every 8 hours to the bucket, yes? You delete a user over here, doesn't delete it out of the bucket. I put somebody on litigation hold over here, and then some clown deletes that person on litigation hold, and 30 days later it's gone, it's still here. It doesn't disappear.
Can you use that as a replacement for litigation?
Absolutely. Well, I wouldn't go so far as to, it takes a bit more to search through it, but sure, you could. You know, it's not what I would recommend, but you sure could, okay? Full search capabilities of SharePoint, corporate OneDrive, the whole box and dice. But people get this concept of backups of Office 365 is only a current copy of what's there. Ours is not. Ours is completely different, and I like the concept of the bucket because, hey, if you don't put a hole in the bucket, mate, it's still there. And it's MSP, you deal with it. Yes.
And then the backup 8 hours later is into the bucket. Is there still a previous version you can go back to?
Full versioning control. Okay. This one here, I think, this is the Gilware product that we bought, FBR. It was supposed to be released fairly quickly after we bought it, and they realised the back-end engine wasn't real good, and they wanted to integrate the VSS snapshot capabilities. This one here is file backup with analyzer. The analyzer is the smart part, folks. You put the software on a machine, it does an analyze and sends it to the cloud. Once you've got the software on the machine, you don't care anymore. You just go to the cloud and you go, I don't want that file, I don't want that file, I don't want that file. It's a standard template that we can use, but you can add to it. So you can get very specific about, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. Does that make sense? And then because we're using the sector-based backups, it's very fine and small, very easy. CryptoLocker can't touch us, okay? Very, very powerful, but it is for what I call the mobile warriors or the road warriors, okay? It is specifically for that environment, and it is also MSP. Gentlemen, thank you. I have gone over and I do apologise by 10 minutes. If there are any questions, I think we need to get out of this room. Is that correct? We need to get out of this room. But if you have questions, please come down to the StorageCraft stand and annoy the hell out of us. Please, we're here to be annoyed. Thank you.